Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for today's session. We'll go ahead and get started. To introduce myself, my name is Jamila Blake, she, her. I'm a project manager at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS for short. And we are very, very excited to welcome all of you to today's STEM Scholars Community Workshop. We'll be focusing on introducing all of you to professional societies today. So just a quick agenda. We're going to go through just some quick housekeeping items. We'll share a little bit about the STEM Resource and Evaluation Center, as well as opportunities to engage in the scholars community. Share a little bit about some of our upcoming events and opportunities. And then we'll move into our main piece for today's session, which is our Professional Societies panel discussion. And then there will be plenty of time at the end for any questions to ask of our panelists. And we're really, really excited to have you here. So our housekeeping items, we ask that you keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. Please feel free to use the raise your hand feature or add any comments in the chat. We encourage you and invite you to turn on your camera if you'd like, but no pressure if you'd like to leave your camera off today. At any point, if you'd like to engage in the discussion or turn on your camera, please do. You're also welcome to introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like to share your name, what organization or academic institution you're with. We'd love to know who's joining us in the room today. We also have live American Sign Language interpretation and closed captioning during today's meeting. So if you don't see captions on your screen, or if you have any trouble seeing our ASL interpreters, just go ahead and change your settings for how you'd like to display your Zoom session today, and you should be able to make sure all of that is displayed properly. We have slides from today's session that are available now if you'd like to follow along on your own, but there will also be a recording that's available, which will be posted to our website on this event page. If you have any issues during the meeting, which we hope you don't, make sure that you reach out to my colleague, Tara King. She'll be available to respond to you in the chat, or you can also email her at tking@AAAS.org for any technical questions. Lastly, we ask that you just take a quick survey before you close out of Zoom today. It'll pop up once you finish the session, but there will also be an opportunity to take it after today's event is over. So any feedback you can provide to help us make sure that these sessions are valuable moving forward, we want to make sure that we have that information. So just a quick disclaimer up top, the STEM Rec is a project that is funded by the National Science Foundation. So material from today is based upon work supported by grant number 2224093. Any opinions, findings, interpretations, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this material are those of its authors and don't represent AAAS's board of directors, the Council of AAAS, membership, or the National Science Foundation. Inclusion in this webinar does not constitute an endorsement of AAAS, SACNAS, or the Wildlife Society by the National Science Foundation. So for anyone that's unfamiliar with the STEM Rec, just want to give a quick overview of the work that we do. So this was a project that was competitively funded by the National Science Foundation to better support the scholarships and STEM program. So we, as a group, AAAS and our partners, seek to increase the effectiveness of the overall STEM portfolio. We're working on building the capacity of the STEM network and making sure that all of the different institutions that receive this funding are better connected and able to better support their scholars. But also we're building a better community for STEM scholars to connect with each other across institutions and make sure that there is a way to really build sense of belonging and make sure those resources and opportunities are readily available for STEM scholars and program alumni to be able to access. So we'll be sharing some information about how to join our STEM Scholars community. We currently house this community on LinkedIn for connecting there. There are weekly posts made from our team into the group, but it's also a space to reach out to other scholars or program alumni if you want to learn more about research or the work that they're doing, or even just ask a question about their experience in STEM program. We want to make it a space that is safe and inclusive and welcoming for all of you to gather when you're not in person at our annual meeting. It's a great place to network and continue to grow your community throughout the STEM network. It's a great place to engage in discussions and learn about different professional development opportunities, as well as employment opportunities and new resources as they come up. So feel free to click on the link that we've shared, and then you can request to join that group online. There's also ways for you to share your own story with the STEM community through our STEM Scholar Spotlight series. This is a great way to share some of the ways your STEM program has impacted you personally, as well as making sure that there's a way to really show what you can share with the broader STEM community and what your goals are for the future. So if you'd like to share your story through this particular forum, please feel free to submit through our form, and we would love to be able to highlight you on our website. And so last thing before we move on to introducing our panel, we want to make you all aware of an upcoming event next week. There will be a webinar focused on mentoring that's highlighting 2 sets of faculty-student mentoring pairs from 2 different institutions with STEM grants. So if you'd like to participate in that webinar as well and maybe learn some new skills or ways for you to engage more effectively in mentoring, we encourage you to register for that session as well and would love to see you there. So without further ado, I'm very, very excited to introduce our panelists for today. I'll introduce each of them on this initial slide, and then our 3 panelists also have some great information to share with you about the organizations that they represent. First of all, I'd like to introduce Daniela Bernal. She serves as SACNAS's Director of Member Services, where she's responsible for strategic recruitment, engagement, retention, and growth of SACNAS's national network of approximately 10,000 college students and professionals in STEM. This includes serving a national network of over 150 chapters, overseeing year-round online career services, managing the virtual member community, and oversight of internal databases and processes for member management, customer service, listening, and reporting. A staff member since 2016, Daniela is experienced in working with members at large to connect them to ongoing programs, services, and events to advance their education and careers in STEM across the United States. This includes direct service with volunteers, including board members and committees, to understand and enhance the member experience. Additionally, Ms. Bernal manages collaborations with national organizations and partners to further enhance the experience for and impact of members year-round. Prior to joining SACNAS, Ms. Bernal worked for the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust, the Southern California Earthquake Center, the American Red Cross, and graduated from the University of Southern California with dual degrees in journalism and earth science. Originally from Santa Cruz, California, she's a proud native Spanish speaker to parents from Chihuahua and Jalisco, Mexico. Ms. Bernal is honored to serve SACNAS members for nearly 10 years in finding their path in STEM, elevating their voice, giving back to their people, and advocating for their communities. Really excited to have Daniela with us today. And next, I'll introduce Mariah Beyers. Mariah Beyers is an associate wildlife biologist who joined the Wildlife Society in 2014. Initially, she served the organization as the unit services manager, overseeing the Wildlife Society's sections and chapters, but now manages membership engagement and is the primary contact for the Wildlife Society's working groups. Mariah received her Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Ecology and Management from the University of Maryland. Prior to joining the Wildlife Society, she worked as an intern and biological science aide for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She also co-founded a student chapter of the Wildlife Society at University of Maryland, serving as vice president, then president. In her free time, Mariah enjoys birding, yoga, thrifting, and reading. She lives in Maryland with her husband, Sam, and their yellow lab, Ren. And last but not least, I'd love to introduce Emileigh Clare with the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Emileigh Clare joined AAAS as the Director of Member Engagement in 2019. In her role, she leads efforts to connect members with meaningful opportunities to advance science and serve society by engaging, volunteering, and growing within the AAAS community. She earned her BA in Communication Studies from Hollins University and began her career in journalism, covering breaking news before transitioning to health reporting and later public health and science advocacy roles. Emileigh holds an MPH from the George Washington University's Milken Institute School of Public Health, where her research focused on women's educational backgrounds and their attitudes towards science and scientific institutions. In her free time, Emileigh enjoys traveling and running after her 2-year-old toddler. Often she's doing both of those things at once. Thank you so much to all three of our panelists for joining us today. And with that, I will turn things over to Daniela to talk a little bit about SACNAS.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jamila. I'm super excited to be here and to connect with all of you. My name is Daniela Bernal. I go by she, her, ella. And as was shared, I'm Director of Member Services. So I have a couple of slides to share, just give a brief overview of what SACNAS does, but I am really looking forward to all of the questions and diving in deeper on whatever part of SACNAS sounds most interesting to you. So if we can go to the first slide. So SACNAS, if you've heard of us or seen our acronym before, it is pronounced SACNAS, and that stands for Society for Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science. So we are a fully inclusive society of scientists. What sets us apart and makes us a little bit different from other societies or associations is we are very broadly multicultural and multidisciplinary. So, some of the groups that you see called out in our name are really a testament to our founders. We were founded over 50 years ago. And since then, we've really grown to be a fully inclusive organization. And so you'll see in a little bit how our membership really represents that. We're national, so we serve members across the country, including U.S. territories. We have chapters in Puerto Rico and Guam and almost every state. And what we do is we put on year-round programs, services, and bring the community together to really equip and empower our members for their advanced degrees and careers in STEM. And so I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. But the main thing I would say is everything we do is really centered on culture and identity. So we work and produce events and programs and services that are meant to help individuals bring their whole self to STEM. And I'm happy to talk more about what that really means, but hopefully you'll see that kind of throughout the rest of my slides. So on the next slide, I'll share, just again, reiterating, we are multidisciplinary and multicultural organization. You'll see on the left side of that slide all of the disciplines that our memberships represent. We have members that are college students, postdocs, and professionals, and even into retired and all segments in between from your college experience through your professional career. You can see our chapters highlighted in those green states there on the map, and then a breakdown of our membership background. On the next slide, what we do, and again, happy to dive in more specifically on any of these areas because we do a lot. But our community is really built of all of these members that I just highlighted across the country, coming from all kinds of backgrounds. And we really find that in bringing our community together, that's where the magic of SACNAS really happens. And so we do that through our programming. We have very specific programs designed to connect members with the next steps needed to advance in their education and careers. So that might be a mentoring program. We have leadership trainings. We have events for community college day. It really spans the whole breadth of what your career, your trajectory might look like in STEM. We also put on year-round services that you can access at any point. So in between all of our different programming, you can go online and look at our career center, access articles, resume review, interact with members on the online community, and find events that you might want to attend more locally. So events held by our chapters. And then finally, we have digital and in-person events that really bring together what we like to highlight always is science, culture, and community equally. So I think most know us or may have heard of us through our conference. Our national conference is the NDI STEM conference. It's typically every October. And so our upcoming conference will be this October in Columbus, Ohio. And that's really where you see kind of the big celebration of our community at the national level. most of our members will attend and engage in keynote talks and breakout sessions. There's poster presentations, a very large graduate school and career expo. And then, of course, throughout is a lot of cultural celebration that's really meant to uplift the communities and celebrate the backgrounds of our membership. So happy to talk more about the conferences that is coming up soon. But that really gives kind of a general overview of what we do. Again, happy to go in any further. And I'm very looking forward to all of y'all's questions. And so there on the slide, and I believe in the slides that will be shared, you can find our website there and both our general inbox if you have questions, and then my personal email as well. So with that, thank you, and looking forward to answering your questions.
Thanks so much, Daniela. All right, next up we have Mariah Beyers, who will be talking with us about the Wildlife Society. Go ahead, Mariah.
Great. Thank you, Jamila. Hi, everyone. Jamila, if you could go to the first slide for me, please. So hi, everyone. My name is Mariah Beyers, she, her. I'm the Director of Member Engagement for the Wildlife Society. I'm really excited to speak with all of you today and want to thank Jamila and AAAS for inviting me. I've been working for the Wildlife Society for over 10 years now, and as Jamila mentioned earlier, I first got involved with the organization when I was at the University of Maryland as an undergrad. I helped to co-found a student chapter of the Wildlife Society there. Next slide, please. The Wildlife Society is the professional society for wildlife biologists, and it was founded in 1936. We have over 10,000 members across North America and the world, and our program areas include publications, certification, policy, conferences, and working groups. And through these programs, we enhance the networking and learning opportunities for our members, as well as their professional and career development. Next slide. Here are a few of our recent member spotlights from TWS's Instagram account. We have a really amazing community of wildlifers who are doing important research around the globe, and the Wildlife Society supports these students and professionals by providing educational and professional development opportunities. We work to elevate the voices of wildlife professionals by advocating for policies and regulations that support both wildlife professionals and the use of sound science in policy and management decisions. And we spotlight the work of professionals within our member network, but also externally through our website, wildlife.org, and our social media platforms to help educate the general public as well on the importance of wildlife research, management, and conservation. So that's just a really quick summary of TWS, but I look forward to chatting more and answering any questions that you all may have.
Thanks so much, Mariah. Appreciate you sharing about the Wildlife Society today. And next up, we have Emileigh Clare, who will tell us a little bit more about AAAS.
Awesome, thank you. Great. All right, next slide, please. Next slide. Awesome. So as said earlier, my name is Emileigh Clare. I work at AAAS membership, and I'm excited to share an overview of what AAAS membership is. STEM is one of many AAAS programs and initiatives that are part of our mission and what we do. As STEM members, STEM participants, you are members of AAAS, so thank you so much for joining us. Your membership is extremely important to us in advancing our mission. You're part of one of the world's largest and oldest general scientific societies. We have a long history, founded in 1848. AAAS represents the voice of over 100,000 scientists, engineers, educators, and science advocates across the globe. So thank you for being part of that. Together, we are advancing science, engineering, and innovation throughout the world for the benefit of everybody. All right, next slide, please. So, especially right now, membership is really important. We're putting our mission that I just spoke to into action every single day, mobilizing our full resources and expertise to speak for the scientific community. And so together, you're part of this strong community of STEM professionals and this work that we do. We are regularly promoting resources and calls to action to our members within our member update newsletter and our policy alert newsletter that goes out every week for the policy alert newsletter, and the member update goes out every month. And our current focus and many of our resources are, centered on protecting R&D funding in the STEM community. So I just wanted to share that with you all. And your membership of AAAS really powers this work and helps us amplify our collective voice where it matters most. Next slide. A little bit about how this work is all grounded within our strategic vision and goals. AAAS's vision is to be a boldly inclusive, mobilized, and global scientific community that ignites, enables, and celebrates scientific excellence and science-informed decisions and actions. We have what's called 4 strategic pillars. The first is advancing scientific excellence and achievement. The second is fostering inclusivity for scientific excellence. The third is building trust among scientists and communities. And the final, and last but not least, catalyzing progress where science meets policy. So all of this grounds our work and our programs and our outreach and engagement with members. Next slide, please. So learning a little bit more about your membership benefits and how you can get engaged. I mentioned earlier that we have a weekly policy alert. It's actually, if it hasn't come out, it's going to come out soon. So I love to read that to see what our Office of Government Relations is working on, what resources, events, calls to action that there might be. That's a great resource for members. We also have a general monthly newsletter that I mentioned earlier called a member update. That's coming out at the beginning of the month usually, and it features a letter from our CEO, Sudip Parikh, to share what's going on in advocacy, as well as any news, events, and the celebrations that we're having, because those are important too. We also share regularly with all of our members what events, trainings, and workshops are happening. You can find that also online at our AAAS.org community platform. And also just wanted to highlight another really valuable benefit is the fact that you can join up to 3 sections as part of your AAAS membership. We have 24 different scientific disciplinary focus groups that span all sorts of different fields and expertise. And it's a really great way to engage with your peers, your colleagues, make connections and collaborate. So you can learn more about that by logging on to our AAAS.org community platform. So I'm going to go ahead and close this presentation because I'd really love to just get to the discussion and hear any of your questions. So thank you for being members of AAAS.
Well, thank you all so much for those great presentations. It was always one of my favorite things when I was a student was to learn about the different organizations that I could be involved in and make sure that I knew what I was getting into, entering into the field that I was interested in and starting to make those connections before I even graduated. So excited to get into our panel discussion now, and there will be an opportunity for you to submit your own questions as well to each of our panelists. So start thinking about those now. You can even start sharing them with us as we go through this first part of our panel discussion. In the meantime, I will go ahead and stop sharing so you can see all of our panelists together. So to get into our moderated panel discussion, I want to just start off with a question for each of you. In your opinion, as someone who's been engaged in membership with a professional society, what are some of the reasons and the benefits of joining a professional society? No, this time we'll start with Mariah.
Yes, thanks, Jamila. So your professional society, it's your network, right? It's the how you stay connected with other professionals in your field and updated on the latest news and professional development opportunities. So it really is kind of your people to keep you updated on all of those really important things to help advance your career, make connections with other folks in the field as well. So it's just an essential part of for any student, early career professional or professional to join their professional society.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think also professional development resources, and toolkits are something that are really helpful for people to know about. Um, we have a lot of different leadership opportunities, especially for early career folks that, you might find interesting. And if you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to answer questions like on email or, um, here too, if that's helpful.
Daniela, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I think those all hit the nail right on the head. What I would add is I think particularly, um, especially during these times, I think people are always looking for that connection and to find a source of grounding, and I think it's helpful to have a network you can turn to whenever you need it, whether that's once a year or a couple of times a year, depending, if you can attend the national conference or so. But I have that in my mind. So I'm thinking, people tell us that what's helpful about being part of a organization like this is being able to attend events virtually or in person, whatever it is, to get kind of that refueling and re-energizing from peers, hear how they're doing, make connections like was said, and just find other things that maybe you hadn't thought of or hadn't uh, really been exposed to. And I think the nice thing about associations like these is we're typically always kind of talking to each other as well. So if I don't know the answer for someone, I might be able to make that connection for them to another organization that might have that resource or have that specific event or whatever it is. So those things can always be helpful as well.
I feel like you all touched on something really helpful and important about making those connections, building out your network, and knowing who you can reach out to when you have questions about things. Do you have any advice for someone who might be interested specifically in engaging in mentorship or building their professional network by joining a professional society? I'll start with Emileigh, since you're unmuted, if you wouldn't mind going first on
Oh,
this one.
I'd love to. It's not STEM related necessarily, but as a graduate of a women's college, we have a really strong network of other graduates of women's colleges, and so I have joined that and been active in those groups before. In the local chapters, and I can just say that you can find so many people who are looking to mentor and support and to help. If you are even just having a little small talk or a conversation here and there, checking in with that person, that can go a really long way to, more opportunities later on. And then even just asking for advice is a really great way to just get to know others that have similar experiences or backgrounds. And the more that you can get insights from others who may be in the same place or been where you've been, sometimes the more helpful, and more insights you'll have moving forward.
Yeah, that's great advice. Daniela, what would be your advice?
Absolutely. I think, some advice I got a while ago, and now I wish I could remember who it was, but around this topic was really, I think sometimes we focus on finding a mentor, and someone challenged me to think of it more, not more, but in addition, as you can have kind of like a personal board of directors. And so, sometimes one mentor can't do it all. People are busy and have other obligations and responsibilities. But you can have more than one mentor that might serve different roles, whether that's professional or personal or familial or whatever it is. And so thinking broadly about where you find that mentorship and how you might fit different people into that to really help you. And in that way, you can have kind of a more well-rounded mentorship experience, hopefully.
Thank you for passing along that advice that you received. I think that that's a great way to think about it beyond just a one-to-one, but both and can be a great way to experience mentorship. Mariah, any advice you'd like to share?
Sure, and I'll echo, what Emileigh and Daniela have already mentioned. Just there's so many opportunities it can be overwhelming at first with a professional society with, members of all over the country, but most professional societies, including TBS, we have local chapters, student chapters at universities that provide local networking opportunities in sort of a smaller environment where you can start to kind of build those local connections and as Emileigh kind of mentioned, they're so willing to, share their advice, help students and early career professionals, especially in any way that they can. And with the wildlife community in particular, I found everyone to just be extremely welcoming and wanting to help others. And a piece of advice that I received recently at a conference that I attended that I hadn't really thought about too much was that it's incredibly important to build connections within your field, but also outside of your field as well. Maybe make connections with people that are in the business field or, in the medical field, because everyone has a story to share. They have something that might be helpful. So even if it's not directly related to the field that you want a career in, there's great advice you can get from folks in other fields as well. And they might be able to, you never know who they might know and can connect you with. So.
Great advice. And you touched on something that I think lends well to one of our other questions that we wanted to get into today, Mariah, which is the venue for identifying and connecting with people to help build out your network and find those mentors. Do you have advice for how someone might be able to identify and at least start that connection with a potential mentor, whether that's through a formal program or at a conference that they're attending? How do you think someone might be able to go about that as they're engaging in their professional society?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So at the Wildlife Society, we do have a member directory, which is kind of your direct connection to reach out to other members, and you can sort of see what their areas of expertise might be and sort of filter the type of people that you're interested in getting in touch with. But I think conferences and meetings are another really great in-person way to make those connections. And a couple of our working groups, which are sort of forums of our members that focus on particular areas of interest, those working groups at some of their conferences have developed these mentorship programs that help connect, maybe first-time attendees with an experienced attendee at the conference, sort of guide them through the conference. And I've heard really good feedback from some of the folks that participated in that, and that they've been able to maintain those connections after the conference. So those types of sort of structured programs can be really helpful too.
Really helpful to know that as the Wildlife Society, those are some things you can help people navigate as they're figuring out that space. Daniela or Emileigh, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. At SACNAS, we also have a member directory, so that's similar. And I think, there's kind of, as you mentioned in the question, there can be kind of like informal ways of establishing that connection, and it can be good for you to be proactive and look on the directory and do that research yourself, or to do it formally via a program. And so we do at SACNAS also have a mentoring program. It's called Sacred, and it has a really wonderful philosophy behind it around connecting people based on kind of shared goals and values. And so there are different circles, and I'm happy to share the link for that in the chat in a moment. But I think, what I see in either option, whether you're looking at through a directory or at a conference or through a formal program, is really just being able to ask those questions and make that connection at the start to find if that's, the right person for you, if it's a good fit. Kind of like I said before, sometimes maybe it's not. And so asking those questions and being curious and getting to know someone right at the start, I think can be very helpful to kind of gauge where that relationship might lead.
I love all of this. I'll just add too that, like what Mariah and Daniela said, that looking at the directories and existing structures are a really great way to get started at AAAS as well, and seeing what kind of opportunities are there that most interest you with like folks that you'd like to learn from or collaborate with. AAAS has 24 different discipline-focused sections, and they each have their own online communities. They each have, they do events. They have leadership roles, like an early career chair. So it's kind of cool for me to see, like at an annual meeting, I might meet a member who's like, what's this section? How do I network? Any suggestions? And then they'll go to a social or an event, or they'll just join the online community, and then 2 or 3 years later I'll see them again and they're the early career chair of that section. So there's just like some really cool ways to just get started by, just poking around, seeing what's there on the website, seeing what's in your membership newsletter. And if it's of interest, just, join in, and get to know people, go to an event, ask how you can help. We have two AAAS sections right now that are doing a lot of great events for members on science communication and science policy and what you can do in your individual capacity as a STEM professional. And that includes early career folks, of course. So like going to an event and, offering your skills and your expertise and helping with the events or sharing resources with other members, and just being there to pitch in, because the stronger the community is, the more that we can all support one another. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of things out there for people to check in and join in.
Really appreciate you highlighting some of those structures that are already in place to make that slightly less of a daunting process to find the people that you connect with and can start to build some of those really positive relationships with. And you also brought up a great point, Emileigh, that I think several of our members of the scholars community would be interested in, and maybe learning a little bit more about leadership opportunities within their professional society. If you wouldn't mind kicking us off, but especially for students and early career professionals, what might be some ways they can get involved?
Yeah, this one is super exciting to talk about. I love it. AAAS is a very old organization, like 200 years, which in many ways is like a wonderful thing, but also a challenging thing to be in a membership association because change does take time. Our battery is very long and old, so we're equipped to deal with a lot of things that are happening. In these, as we navigate, kind of unprecedented times. And so recently we had a governance modernization project, and this was, gosh, I think this was back in like 2020, because we understood that many of our discipline focused sections weren't necessarily always including early career voices. And so as a result of that, that became a new role was introduced, an early career chair and a member engagement chair and a non-academic representative. So those leadership roles were added to each of the leadership teams of the sections, and those sections. It's kind of a little complicated. I didn't have the chart in my presentation, but those sections provide insights to the council and to the board and to AAAS's overall strategy. So you definitely have a voice. And also the sections serve a really powerful role in just hearing from members and supporting members, especially early career scientists and STEM professionals and students and postdocs. So, just even that is a leadership role that you could speak, your make requests and ask for it to share it with others what you might need support in. But then know that there's also a leadership role that was designed because it's so important to hear from you and to have those voices heard in AAAS. And so that's just one example, but there's many others.
Thank you so much for elevating the importance of those roles, but also thinking about how integral students and early career professionals are in the evolution of these organizations and being able to be sustainable and meet the needs of our members. And so I'll turn things to Mariah. Would you like to talk about any leadership opportunities within the Wildlife Society?
Definitely. So with the Wildlife Society, we have over 215 organization units, which include our student chapters, our state and provincial chapters, and our regional sections, as well as over 30 working groups. So each of those has its own executive board of officers. They're all volunteers. So those are all opportunities to serve in different leadership roles. Some of them specifically have, student-focused board members. And we even have two working groups. They're our student development working group and our early career professional working group, which are entirely focused on those two member groups. And anyone that is either a student member with the Wildlife Society or an early career professional with us, you're automatically become a member of either of those working groups free of charge. So those are really great ways to kind of dip your toes in, get some leadership experience and more involved with our society. And are similar to with AAAS, our working groups are committees of council, our governing board. So you do also have a voice as well with providing feedback to our council and what you would like to see, for students and early career professionals. And the chair of our student development working group is even a non-voting member of our council. So they serve as the student liaison to our council for a year to make sure that students have a voice as well when those decisions are made. And so in addition to, serving in those different officer roles, we also have what's called the Leadership Institute. And it's an annual course to provide a select group of 10 members of the Wildlife Society with leadership training. So that's a year-round program, and then it culminates at our annual conference in the fall when those 10 individuals come together at the conference in person, sort of present everything that they've learned. So those are kind of two of the big ways that you can get more involved with leadership with TWS.
Thanks, Mariah. And Daniela, if you'd like to speak to SACNAS.
Absolutely. For SACNAS, it's very similar, actually. So like AAAS, we have governance roles and we have a lot of committees where members are welcome to serve in different areas, whether that's membership or our professional programming or working on our conference. And like was said, those are really important leadership roles, I think, for members to be able to provide insight and help guide our board and our staff to put on programming that speaks to the membership. And then second, we also have a Leadership Institute. Ours is broken out by postdocs. So we have one for postdocs that is kind of held in conjunction with our conference. And then we have a separate one for mid to late career professionals. And both of those you can find on our website under the programs, professional programs, I believe, tab. But similarly, those are really good opportunities for our members to get kind of very specific training about being leaders in what might be, the space where they are coming from underrepresented groups or serving underrepresented groups. And so it's a very customized and special program where you get kind of leadership experience and leadership training, but from that context and how to advocate better for those groups and for yourself. And then I would also just add with chapters, as was said, we have around 155, I believe now, chapters across the country. Most of those are student chapters. And similarly, they have executive roles where they're, you can be the president of your chapter or the secretary or have different roles in that chapter, and that really gives particularly our students a chance to serve their kind of local SACNAS community, but then also network with other chapter executive roles and get leadership and exchange ideas and things like that from the national network as well. And then lastly, I would just say, I think one of the things that our chapters are really good at doing in terms of leadership is advocating for things that are important to them on their campus and in their local community. So not just, creating programming for their members on campus, but also serving as leaders and voices of the SACNAS mission on their campus and again with the local community as far as they are willing to go. And so hopefully I think that covers it.
Well, those all sound like great opportunities to get involved, and you can get involved so early on in your careers to make those connections and build on those skills. So it's really nice to hear that there are so many different ways that someone could really tap into that. And so I'm going to ask one more of our prepared questions before we transition to audience questions. So feel free to start dropping things in the chat or use the Q&A feature. Between Tara and myself, we will try to make sure we have all of those ready for our panelists to answer. But wanted to touch on one more topic that I think a lot of our scholars community would be interested in hearing about in terms of career opportunities and career development. What are some resources that someone might be able to find through their professional society to help them navigate the workforce or really work towards the vision they have for themselves in their career? And Daniela, if you don't mind, we'll start with you for this question.
Absolutely. It's great timing because one of them is happening now, actually. So we do have one really awesome virtual kind of small conference that we've been holding for the last couple of years. It's called CareerCon, and it's happening this week. So if you are interested, I definitely encourage you to keep an eye out for next year. But that is a very specific event for our members to get more information and explore paths for careers in industry specifically. And I like to mention that one because it really was born out of member feedback. Members indicated, I'm interested in learning about careers in private industry, and our conference perhaps at that time was more focused on academia or other types of careers. And so we made this specific event to answer that question and help our members find those paths. So that is one. And then, of course, our national conference that I mentioned, it's every October. I think that's a great way to, particularly through the Career and Graduate Expo Hall. We have hundreds and hundreds of booths in that hall where institutions and government agencies and now private industry and even nonprofits or other societies are sharing opportunities that they have for graduate school, for internships, for scholarships, for open positions that they might have. And a lot of, particularly the graduate schools, will have application fee waivers. So it's a great way to get access to some of those opportunities and be able to apply or learn about applying right there with the person in the hall. And so those two, I think, kind of mark each end of the year. In between that, we do have an online career center that's available all of the time. Folks can either do kind of their own search and do filters for geography and title and salary and all of that stuff, or you can even set up an alert. So if you want to type in a search one time and then just allow those emails to come to you every time a job is posted that matches those criteria, you'll get that to your inbox, and then you can go on and apply. And then lastly, just sprinkled in between all of those things as well, we every once in a while have a webinar on this topic. And so if you're a member, you'll get email about our upcoming webinars in advance, and they'll cover things like writing a resume or how to do an informational interview, different things like that can be helpful. And then if you do miss it, we always have them recorded and available for members to access later on.
Those all sound like incredible opportunities to get connected and learn more about those different career pathways. Thanks so much for sharing, Daniela. Emileigh, are there any AAAS resources you'd like to point out?
Sure. So for career development, we're actually about to launch a member learning hub that's going to be coming out in July. So stay tuned, because the hope of that is that we can take many of our AAAS career development professional resources and put them into one easy place, so you don't have to like search like crazy on the AAAS.org website. And the search function doesn't work very well too, so that's another thing. So stay tuned for that. Also, I wanted to note, like, depending on, what kind of interest you have, there's different, communities and groups beyond the sections. Like, we also have a local science engagement network. And it's not really chapters, but they kind of operate a little bit like that. They're local networks of STEM professionals who want to work together to serve their community and, help solve community problems with their skills and expertise. And so many of those have early career members and leaders of those networks, and they work with AAAS to get resources, trainings, like we just did a science communication workshop with West Virginia, and we've done like engaging with religious communities after a hurricane aftermath in Western North Carolina recently. So we're really trying to provide AAAS resources to some professionals in their communities for the kind of things that they're working on and that are like relevant to them where they live. So those are some kind of resources out there. The AAAS.org/LSE and communities where you can learn more about that. Also, if you're really interested in science policy, so it's different than community engagement. We also do a case workshop in person in Washington, D.C. once a year, and that's really structured towards early career and students who are interested in learning about science policy engagement and getting some training in that, making your case to elected officials, like what that's all about. It culminates with like a Hill Day. So I think that's a really valuable experience that AAAS does every year. And many institutions are help, I guess they support a AAAS member in that institution to help them come to the case workshop. So you can learn more about that on our website. I think that's a really great, another opportunity for professional development.
Thinking about the community impact and the different ways you can really hone in your skills and not just one way. There are so many different ways to engage with your degree. I think that's really helpful to highlight. And then Mariah, if there's anything you'd like to share from TWS.
Sure. So the Wildlife Society, we have a monthly webinar series that's hosted by our working group. So there's lots of great topics to help with career advancement through those. You can visit wildlife.org/events to see what's coming up for that webinar series. We also have a job board with lots of opportunities there, careers.wildlife.org. And we also have an annual conference as well that usually brings in around 2,000 attendees. And this year's conference will actually be in Edmonton, Alberta, October 5th through the 9th. Next year, we're in Des Moines, Iowa, and then 2027 in Sacramento, California. So there's tons of opportunities for students and early career professionals to learn and network there through different panel discussions focused on various career opportunities, resume building, and all of that good stuff. And then TWS really just provides a platform to share your work and build a reputation for yourself. So that can include presenting your research at conferences, at our annual conference, or at maybe a local chapter meeting, publishing in one of the Society's 3 scientific journals, as well as just writing for newsletters for a working group or for one of our communication outlets. That just are a couple ways to help get your name out there and establish credibility in your field.
So another super helpful point that came up in some of the questions we received from participants. So with that, I want to kick things off with a question for each of you that I think speaks to a little bit more about your personal experiences. Can you give a recent example of how you've used your connections to help you in your given field? Mariah, if you'd like to kick us off with this one.
Yeah, of course. Gosh, I've met so many great people through my time with TWS through all over the country. So gosh, I don't know how to just pick just one of them. But I think just everyone that I've met just has kind of, a lesson story to share that's just helped me to learn and advance in my position with TWS and to help in my community as well. It's really hard to necessarily pick one example. Yeah, I don't, that's a hard one.
No worries. Emileigh or Daniela, any examples come to mind for you?
I'm happy to go. I think I actually started talking about this earlier and I was kind of a little scatterbrained and didn't finish my thought. I mentioned being a part of a women's college alumni network earlier, and I didn't even say why. I'm so apologies on that. Um, I think that joining these types of networks are really great to find, people that are kind of similar or have similar interests or backgrounds. Joining those networks because you can find like career opportunities. Like I think I knew somebody else who was working in like science related public relations and my network of women's college alumni. And so that led to me learning about a role at AAAS. And she was working at AAAS. So I think like you never know, what you might find. And I think it's been really cool to see in my role, like somebody I might meet who's working, a postdoc or a graduate student. And there I tried, I learn about them because sometimes it's almost like I think working in a membership at an association or society is almost, I make a joke, I hope it's not offensive, but it's almost like being a little bit like a Walmart greeter because you are our target if you prefer. You're trying to help somebody find their people, their aisle, their row, their interest area. And it's really fun and exciting. If I bring up a couple things and they say that didn't work or I didn't have a good experience. I might try to bring up some other things. And, it all takes like a village to try to help people find where they want to go and what resources might help them. Because a lot of times in your career, like you're not really in your early in your career, you're not really sure what direction you're going to go. If you're going to stay in academia, if you're going to go into science policy or science communication or science education, there's many different science industry or somewhere else that's maybe related or adjacent, but not the same than what you got your degree in. And so I think just yeah, being open to that, finding others, making those connections with professional societies and other networks like that can just be extremely rewarding. And yeah, if you have any questions about that or want to talk shop more about it, I would love to.
Oh, thanks, Emileigh and Daniela.
Yeah, that reminded me of something. Thank you, Emileigh. I think kind of like you mentioned, I didn't end up using the degree that I thought I would. As is mentioned, I think in my intro, I started studying journalism. I thought I was going to be a newscaster. And about halfway into college, thought to myself, I don't want to do that. But I loved, learning how to communicate in all the different ways. And so I added earth science as a second major at that time. And while I'm not a geologist anymore, I do think that, it took all that time to kind of evolve the connections and all the different places that I ended up interning and working and volunteering at to find what I loved. And it ended up being, I think I was at a barbecue, and I was just telling someone I studied geology, I studied journalism, and they mentioned SACNAS to me and said, "Oh, I think they have an open position that is communicating about science." And so it just fit perfectly. And so I think going back to something I said earlier about always asking questions and being curious of others, but also sharing about yourself, because that person really made that connection for me. And thankfully it worked out 9 years later. I do think, a lot of times I think I might be a little bit rare, particularly for my generation, having been at the same organization for a long time, but it's certainly a testament to loving it. But also being able to evolve in my role and pursue different interests of mine. So I think, the takeaway is if your interests do evolve, there's always other opportunities. And maybe it's not at the same organization like it was for me, although I'm very happy that it was. But those things evolve and you grow. And I think being able to listen to that helps a lot, because then you know who maybe you want to ask to see if that really is, that career looks like what you think it will, or if that jump makes sense for you. You don't really know until you ask. And I think being flexible and open and honest with yourself will always help with that.
And that is fantastic advice for us to wrap up this discussion on. Thank you so much to Mariah, Daniela, and Emileigh for joining us today. You shared such incredible resources and advice, and we really, really appreciate you letting us learn more about your professional societies. So before we officially close out today's webinar, we just have a few more pieces we want to share with you to help you stay connected with us and continue to learn more about the different opportunities that are available to you through the scholars community, as well as the professional societies that were represented here today. Please remember, if you have just a couple of minutes of time to fill out our survey, we'd love to learn how we continue to provide informational events for you and that are presented in a format that's helpful for you. We also want to make sure you stay connected with the STEM Rec. Feel free to check out our website, connect with us on LinkedIn, X, or Instagram. And if you have a question, feel free to reach out to anyone on our team through our email. And that is all the time we have for today, unfortunately. Would love to continue this conversation, but I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to engage with you again soon. Thank you so much.